Good evening, Mayor and distinguished members of City Council. I am George Mikitarian, President and CEO of Parrish Healthcare. I want to thank you again for the invitation tonight for us to give our semi-annual report, and I want to thank Mr. Billy Specht, the newest member of our Board of Directors, for giving you tonight's report. I have notebooks for all of you, and I don't know the proper protocol to pass those out, as well as for the two gentlemen here. If we could do that now, if you'd like to.
Yeah, just come in. We can normally go to the clerk and then hand them back this way. But
thank you, Scott.
Easier not to.
Appreciate it.
It's not that controversial.
I'd like to take a few minutes tonight to address a very disturbing email that most of you recently received, full of lies and fabrications, comments made by someone who was far off course from reality and the truth. Dr. Craig Deligdish continues to make unfounded accusations about Parrish Medical Center, our Board of Directors, our attorneys, and our executives. We have done nothing wrong, and we, in court, continue to prove our innocence. He continues his antics and greed-oriented tactics for one sole purpose: to force us to settle with him financially. His comments get further and further from reality. Certainly sad indeed. The vast majority of his emails, similar to the one that most of you have recently received, include statements such as, in parentheses, this communication is intended for settlement purposes. You'll also notice in his emails he often uses the term, in my opinion, to attempt to remove himself from legal liability. He obviously values his own opinion very highly, even though he's been consistently proven to be wrong. In his most recent email, he requests that you, City Council, expend your resources investigating his wild goose chases and unfounded accusations. Then, his plan will be to submit a public records request and obtain that information free of charge. His accusations are always wild stretches of fabrications of issues that he creates in his own mind to cause someone or an entity to overreact and pay him money. We have and will always refuse to do that. Why? Because we're innocent. He's obviously having difficulty dealing with that reality. As an example of his lies, he states that PMC is prohibited from investing in for-profit companies, while he simply doesn't understand our enabling legislation which allows our side-by-side entity, the North Brevard Medical Support Corporation, to do exactly that. He also states that we are not allowed to operate outside of our tax district without, again, understanding our enabling legislation that allows us to do just that, as long as we don't issue taxes on the citizens within our district, which, proudly, we haven't done for over 25 years. Something that we are obviously proud of, but again, he ignores or perhaps can't comprehend that reality. He doesn't actually understand our enabling legislation, because if he did, such facts would get in his way of trying to extort money from us. And it might make him feel bad for being wrong so many times. Another example is that he states that we have violated state laws under what is known as Florida's low income pool for reimbursement, even though the transaction was in itself approved by the state of Florida. He accuses us of being the reason why there no longer are radiation therapy services in North Brevard, even though he, and he alone, is the reason why his radiation therapy program was evicted from our building, because he didn't pay us rent for over 1 year. The court has determined that he was in breach of his lease agreement. The amount of that rent, once all of it is collected from him, will exceed $1 million that he refused to pay to your public hospital. And by the way, His radiation therapy program was using equipment on patients while he was under investigation by the Florida Bureau of Radiation for multiple violations related to that very same equipment and that program. Sad that a so-called professional finds it necessary to blame others for his own mistakes. The notebooks distributed to you tonight include just a dozen examples of his long list of embarrassments and defeats related to his many accusations. These 12 examples are included because all of the information contained in them are public documents. To highlight just a few, example number 1 are the results of an independent investigation by a labor law firm finding him guilty of the harassment of one of our female managers in multiple violations of our code of behavior. Yet, he has yet to apologize to this lady. Example 2 is a copy of a temporary no-contact restraining order for stalking or non-consensual sexual conduct entered against him by a North Carolina judge. Example number 3 is information related to a formal complaint by his own previous radiation safety company to the Bureau of Radiation in Florida that he and his company were treating cancer patients without a radiation safety officer, no medical physicist, no dosimetrist, and no radiation safety committee. In fact, he had this equipment dismantled and removed from the premises before the conclusion of the state investigation. Example 4, a copy of the final judgment in our successful eviction of him from our building, in which he was required by the court to pay us over $600,000, and we await the remainder of the monies. Example number 7 in your book, whereby we caught his staff under his direction misrepresenting Parrish Medical Center to the state of Florida in a scheme to obtain over 20,000 vials of COVID vaccines under our license and our state registration for him and his company's own financial gain. Example number 9 in your book is a copy of a cease and desist letter from the attorney of the Mayo Clinic because he and his company were falsely using the Mayo Clinic name and trademark for his own personal gain. Example number 10 in your book is information from the UCF College of Medicine stripping him of his voluntary faculty appointment because he uses his title of Associate Professor of Medicine, University of Central Florida College of Medicine, in any of his attack emails against PMC, our board members, and our attorneys. Example number 11 is information related to our own medical staff and board of directors removing him from the Parrish Medical Center medical staff. He is one of just a very small number of physicians in the 65-year history of Parrish Medical Center to ever be removed from the medical staff. As you delve into all of this material, you will clearly come to the conclusion that this is a person with no credibility who projects onto others the very things that he claims them to be doing. He certainly sees the world differently than we do. PMC, I, and our board of directors will continue to defend our employees, ourselves, and our patients from this person. Thank you for your time tonight. We, as always, remain ready and prepared to be your community health care provider. And we apologize for this person consuming your time inappropriately. In the event that you do cross paths with him, feel free to let him know that we stand ready to help him find the health care that he needs if and when he chooses to do so. Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council.